So a couple of weeks ago I talked about David Norwood's rules on what you should do if you're a club player or an average player, looking to choose a chess opening. And from the book, Steve Davis Plays Chess. Right now, I bought this book twice for some reason, don't know why. But it looks crazy, but I think the rules are absolutely fantastic in there. I'm going to repeat the rules here, so if you've not seen that previous video, you don't have to, you can just watch this one. And those rules, I think, were really, really useful, and I've acted upon that. And in this video, I'm going to show you, what that might look like. So let's look at the 5 rules again first. So here we are. So he recommends to restrict your repertoire to as few openings as possible. That makes sense if you're a club player with limited time, or you're an adult chess improver with limited amount of time. You don't have to take on E4, E5 openings and take on everything that's involved in that, or delve into the Sicilian. If you haven't got the time, restricting your repertoire to as fewer openings as possible just makes sense. And number 2, he says play openings that you enjoy rather than choosing an opening because you believe or you've read that it's better than another one. Again, I thought this one makes sense, and this was pretty good. That you want to be getting positions that you enjoy playing. So I'm going to talk about an opening I've just recently discovered that I think might be really good for me. It might suit my style, which will play into that number 2. Number 3, learn everything that you can about the openings you play, but do not try to memorise lots of variations. And what he said about that is that, trying to rote memorisation of lots and lots of variations, you're just going to forget them anyway. And often club players you'll deviate from theory anyway fairly early on. So it's kind of a waste of time in trying to memorise lots and lots of variations. Instead, you're looking for the ideas, the principles, where the pieces want to go, where the sort of pawn breaks are in the sort of different variations of that opening. Things like that rather than exact memorisation. I was watching the Simons Williams video the other day, and he's kind of saying similar things as well. And a lot of top players do. Look to know why you're playing that move rather than just being able to drill it. So number 4, don't keep changing your openings. Whoops. Right? Don't keep changing your openings. Experience counts for a lot in chess. Yeah, I can agree with that. When you're constantly switching openings, but then again, I kind of sort of understand why people do that, because there's no point in sticking to an opening if you really don't like it. Right, I think you've got to sort of test out the openings. This is what I'm doing with this video as well. I mentioned yesterday, I think it was, that I'm test running these openings. I'm going to sort of play around with them in Blitz and down at the chess club and things like that. And if I do like them, then I can sort of study them a little bit more deeply. So that's the idea anyway. So let's look at the last rule. Wherever possible, choose openings and variations that are not well known. So I think this one is also really good. Right, because basically what you want to do, and what I'm looking at doing, is trying to get good at a small opening, reduce my opening repertoire, and have some sort of edge over the board when I'm playing. I'm not really bothered about online stuff, to be honest with you. It's mostly going down to the club. I use online stuff just to sort of play around and experiment. Obviously, I want to be good at that as well, but it's down at the chess club there where I'm sort of thinking of playing more games. I played one this year, and I basically retired from playing, but I'm thinking of playing again. Supposed to be writing my 3rd book, the Lavender and Brown Mysteries, but it's kind of got to 25,000 words or something like that, and I'm kind of working on common chess playing still. Anyway, so what does this look like in the club? Well, what I've done is I tried to do a profile of what the type of player that I'm playing down at the chess club, right? And I think this is important as well, because I think this could be number 6 that's not there really. The sorts of players that you are playing, what are they playing, right? And I know from my experience that obviously players play lots of different things, but generally D4, if I'm black, my players play it, and my opponent's going to be playing out D4 quite a lot, probably more than E4. And a lot of players, play system openings. They might play London, College system, or other types of systems, involving D4, and look for sort of quieter games. Usually the people are a little bit older than me, so maybe they don't want, rush tactics, crazy games, chaos on the board, and gambits and things like that. Some players do, but I think on the whole, I'm going to be facing D4 quite a lot as black. And what I don't want to do is keep just accepting draws, keep getting into sort of dry position. So I've looking at playing the Dutch defence, right? And this is something that cropped up basically yesterday, just sort of playing around with it. And I really like the look of this one. And the Dutch defence, 2 look back at the 5 bullet points. Where does that fit in? So let's have a look. So restrict your repertoire to as few openings as possible. Well, that will fit in because every time they play d4, we're playing the Dutch at f5. And okay, I have to learn different variations of the Dutch and different setups to different particular openings, but that is a Dutch game. Right? In the past, that never happens. My opponents play d4 and they're dictating the game, and they play e4, they're dictating the game. I don't want that to happen anymore. I want to try and dictate the shape of the game, and d4, f5, we're playing the Dutch. So yeah, that scores on the first point. Play openings that you enjoy rather than choosing an opening because you believe it's better, blah, blah, blah. I don't know yet whether I'll enjoy it yet, but I've looked at the structures. I've looked at the potential for like the kingside attacks, which is like what I like playing. So, you know, I'm playing a classical sort of setup and taking the centre and moving my queen over in some cases, going for a kingside attack. I like the sound of that. So that does sound really promising. So that ticks that box. Look at the third one. Learn everything you can about the opening you play. Don't try and memorize lots of variations. Obviously, I'm only on day one of looking, or day two of looking at the Dutch. But yeah, I will invest time in that if that's something I think it's going to work. Don't keep changing your openings. Okay, skip that one. Next one. Obviously, I'm at the start of making like another branch of my playing. So I've done all the e4, e5 stuff, d4, d5 stuff. I've done all the tactical study. Now it's time, I think, the next journey to actually start studying the openings, something that I've rarely done, really, to be honest. So that's the next bit I need to do, but I need to do that with a reduced repertoire. So this is why I think changing now does work for me in this particular case, because I'm narrowing that opening repertoire down. So it kind of doesn't tick that fourth box, but there is a very good reason that I'm changing that. Let's have a look at the fifth one. Choose openings and variations that are not well known. So this is another thing. Right, I was looking at the database yesterday, and d4, f5 comes up in like 2% of games. So I don't think my opponents are going to be fully expecting a Dutch when they struck out d4. That's not the first thing. It's about the sixth or seventh thing that they're going to expect. So yeah, the older guys have been playing for 20, 30 years. They'll have come across the Dutch before. They won't be totally surprised. But at the same time, it's probably not what they're expecting. I'm going to try and, unbalance the game, go for a kingside attack, and avoid the strategic sort of stuff. So that does work for d4. What about everything else? So I'm looking at playing for white, the b3 Larsen thing, right? And I think the same way that ticks all the boxes again, in terms of looking at the 5 rules. So yeah, as white, I am going to be playing b3. I am dictating the opening. Am I going to enjoy it? Oh, hopefully, again, I'm going for kingside attack. So yeah, I'm going to learn stuff on that one when I've got the time. And yeah, okay, I've already mentioned before. 5, where possible, choose openings and variations. They're not well known. Well, again, I don't think the b3 is going to be the more popular opening. Let's just have a look on Lichess for that one, actually. Sorry, Lichess. I keep getting that wrong. Someone pointed that out. Yeah, so thank you for that. Let's just have a look on Lichess, and let's look at the database there. Right, so looking at this then, so where does b3 come in? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down the list, 1% of games. So that is going to be, hopefully, giving me an edge once I sort of book up on that and book up. Well, I've never done that before, virtually ever anyway. And I've got to turn this phone off, really annoying. So yeah, I think that is going to kind of work for me, hopefully. Obviously, I've got to play the game, I've got to learn it, understand it a little bit more. So that is something that does fit into David Norwood's 5 points. Well, certainly most of them anyway. And so that's something that's interesting. Basically, what I'm doing, I'm showing you like how that works in practice. I know you're not interested in like what I'm playing, but you might be like looking at those rules and thinking, well, how can I do that with my own repertoire? This is kind of what I'm doing this video for. So yeah, so that would be like 3 openings I need to look at. So I'd look at the Larsen, b3, and that will tick all of those boxes. I'd look at the Dutch against d4, and then I just need to find something for e5, right? So e4, sorry, not e5. I can't play e4, e5, and take on everything. I've got to reduce that to 1 opening. So that's got to be either the modern, maybe, the Alekhine, Scandinavian, something like that. But I don't like the Alekhine. I don't understand the point of the knight, getting battered around the board. I don't really understand that idea at all. I know the idea is to undermine the white centre. and counter attack and things like that. But I just don't like banging the knight around the board. It seems a bit weird. But actually, that opening, when you look at e4, that is a kind of opening that people struggle with. They struggle with the Alekhine because they don't really see it that often. So I might have to sort of bite the bullet on that one. But anyway, this is what I'm talking about. This is what David Norwood's talking about by average club players narrowing down their opening repertoire and trying to dictate the play a little bit more and getting a bit of an edge in those openings, because the theory is that you're going to know a bit more about them than your opponent. When I played e4, and I'm still going to play e4 from time to time, I never knew what to really do against the Alekhine. I used to just play d4, kick it around a little bit, e5, d4, that type of thing, knight c3, and I didn't really know what to do with it. And I think that's the experience of most e4 players. So that might be something to look at. But what I need is then 3 openings. Then I study 3 openings and that's it. Right, and then that's the theory then. But it's whether I want to, how much time I want to put in personally. But that's how I would look at those rules, and sort of if you like the David Norwood's rules as well, or it's not really rules but advice, I do think they're really, really useful. And I kind of come to that conclusion anyway, like certainly on narrowing down my opening repertoire. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at those 2 openings. It might be the modern, but I think the modern's quite big in terms of like having to know lots of different setups and things like that. But I don't know, maybe the modern or the Alekhine. I'm going to look at that anyway, but that is what I'm going to do. Reduce these openings and see how I get on. So, all right, so any questions or anything or any thoughts or any advice, let me know. Goodbye. Take care.